We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien for our weekly 3 and Out. Usually it's sports stories. It is again. And we start with, now I have seen this compared to, and these are cynical people, to the Vikings Herschel Walker trade. The trade the Vikings made for defenseman Quinn Hughes with Vancouver. They gave up 3 guys who they had on there. You know, they were part of their organization, but they were all 3 were first-round picks, plus they gave away a first-round pick that Vancouver could pick the guy themselves. So that's a lot to give up, but the Wild fans loved this guy last night, right?
Yeah. So they gave up Marco Rossi, who was their top center, and then a couple of prospects and a draft pick. And you know, I've heard the same comparison. I've also heard the other way that, you know, the Wild have had a notorious history of prospects not panning out for various reasons, injuries, what have you, right? So, and then if they do well, this pick would be a late round, first round pick. So, you know, this is the type of move that we haven't seen them do. We haven't really seen any Minnesota team do in a long time, pull off a blockbuster trade like this. Usually we're the ones trading a superstar and getting prospects, right? Which,
yeah.
You know, but here, you know, they get a guy that immediately contributed. Last night he hit a goal, and you know, he got a standing ovation. The crowd loved him. Post game interview, he's saying he, you know, willing to extend because, you know, I think they've got him for another year.
Yeah, they do through 2027. So okay, yeah. So he is willing to extend with the Wild. Smart. Yeah, smart to say that.
Yep.
I wouldn't have looked if he came in and said, "Nope, I don't want to sign with these bums."
Here's the thing, Bob. So I guess Bill Guerin, the GM for the Wild, knew him because he's also the GM for USA Hockey this year. Yeah. So he knew him from that. He's got a couple of brothers with New Jersey that are pretty darn talented. So then now there's already talk of, will the brothers end up here? Will be like a new version of the Hanson brothers, or the Hughes brothers with the Wild. Who knows? But it's you know, they had freed up a whole bunch of cap space with the Parisi and Suter contracts being gone, and they didn't really make any big splashes in free agency because most of the guys re-signed with their existing teams. Yep. So they were kind of waiting. Guerin, as I understand it, Guerin was kind of waiting for this move, making a big move, so because he had this money to give to lock up a bigger name player, and they did it. So, you know, let's hope that, you know, they got to get past the first round. You know, that's their big thing, and let's see if this can do it. I'm hopeful. I'd like to see them. I want to see the teams that try to do something to win.
Well, the guy, defenseman, he scored, a year or two ago, he scored 92 points. So the guy can, you know, he is an offensive defenseman and a heck of a defenseman too. So there's nothing wrong with that. All right, we're gonna bundle these things into one. Couple of D3 stories, and unfortunately, Bethel did get knocked out by the defending D3 national champion North Central. So they did have a heck of a year, their first and only loss of the season. So it's tough, but you know what? You made a great point that they and the Johnnies have each other to play.
Yeah, and
that's it. Yep. That's the only really two competitive D3 schools in the MIAC, and where this Wisconsin version of the MIAC. Was it like 4 or 5 teams that made it?
Yeah, it was like 4 teams, I think, and there's been a 5th, Oshkosh, that has had a Cape that has made it in recent years. So it's the WIAC is a very competitive conference, far more competitive than the MIAC.
And there's that, and the other thing is the rivalry resumes. The Tommies are going to play the Johnnies in basketball Thursday night. And John Tower, by the way, the coach of St. Thomas basketball, 300th win.
Well, they did play them. I think it was last Thursday.
Oh, last Thursday. I'm sorry. Was that the 300th? Was that
no
299?
299. The 300th was over the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and it's funny. I read a story about it, and some of the kids that are playing don't even, you know, they weren't even familiar with the rivalry. And it's like hard to believe. It's been like 5-6 years now.
It's really hard to believe. I got to be honest with you.
It's faded from the minds, but you know, I thought it was cool to do it. I don't know how often they're going to be able to do it going forward, but I know that they wanted to do it. They can do it for basketball. It was a non-conference game for the Tommies. It was an exhibition game for the Johnnies, but it was kind of nice after all the years of that rivalry to find some way to bring the Johnnies into town to come out, you know, for the first year of the new arena. I thought that was pretty cool. to be able to do that. So, and you know, St. John's has never been any slouch itself in basketball. You know, they
had a coach long time coach.
He was coaching the football team. Jim Smith was coaching the basketball team and doing pretty darn
good. No, that was very good. All right, now our third item is this anniversary. Yesterday was the 45th anniversary of Tommy Kramer's big debut, right? Or what he just lit up. Not his debut, but
it was 45 years of, it was the miracle at the Met, the Hail Mary throw against Cleveland.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. The Hail Mary.
Yeah, when he led, you know, it was I think he had I forget how many seconds they had left on the clock, and there's 2 plays, and he goes 80 yards, and you know, one play is the hook and ladder play to Joe Sensor, catches it and bops it like a volleyball to Ted Brown. And then they're at Cleveland's 47-yard line, and they called a play called Squadron Right. And Tommy they had the 3 receivers lined up on the one side. And I think, as I recall the sequence, it hit Terry LeCount, the Vikings receiver. It then got touched by a Cleveland defender, and Ahmad Rashad was the third. He just hooked it in as he was falling to the ground, and you know, they won the Central Division.
He almost looked as nonchalant when he caught it as J.J. McCarthy did going into the end zone on that fake.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because he just reached out, grabbed it, and it was game over.
Yeah, he just grabbed it, fell down, and then it was like a pandemonium.
But for you personally, though, this was a big deal because this cemented you as a Vikings fan, right?
Well, this is my earliest Vikings memory. I remember that game being on, and we had family over, and I remember, you know, cousins and stuff going crazy after the play because my dad and my uncle were actually at the game. And the cool thing is, if you know, off the last, you know, decade or so here working with Tommy, being friends with Tommy and representing him, is I've now heard both of their takes of what was going on during that drive and during that play. So I know what Tommy was saying in the huddle, and I remember my dad telling me that he said, you know, Met Stadium didn't have a jumbotron. There was just this calamity in the corner of the end zone.
So there was no replay at all at that point back in 1980.
There wasn't. No, nobody knew what had happened. And then all of a sudden the crowd goes, you know, they emerge from the pile and they see everything going on, and you know, see the scoreboard change. But yeah, that was Met Stadium back in the day. But it's you know, a couple of years ago they did a event to commemorate the anniversary of that play, and they brought a bunch of folks together. You know, it's always fun seeing them get together, and you know, the course typical, you know, like typical Vikings. The next week they played Philadelphia in the playoffs and got their butts kicked, and that was the end of it. So these miracle plays,
it'll have a carryover. Now, could you imagine though, even going to a high school game now and not seeing a video board?
I know, right?
It's right. It's you just don't see it anymore. But
it was a minor league baseball stadium. That's what they played in for you know, the first 20 years of their existence.
Yeah, Metropolitan Stadium. That's what it was built for initially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point. And that had you wearing number 9 as a kid, right?
Yep. That next year we got our first Vikings jerseys. I had 9, and my brother had 28 for Rashad. So obviously, my father being at the game, the play might have had an impact on him too. So
that's really neat to have something like that. All right, now Jeff, I greatly appreciate it. Jeff O'Brien, Attorney Jeff O'Brien. We are going to take a quick break, and the BS show will be right back. I'm gonna talk about now. Paul Wiggin. We're gonna chat about him. Great guy, and we'll talk about that in the next segment, and we'll be right back.